these differential pieces tell us about the immune system, but they also reveal low-lying but chronic infections. When those infections are allowed to run rampant, they go to the weakest place. So if it's your thyroid, it's going to attack your thyroid. Then it looks like Hashimoto's.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Houghton, and today we're joined by Hali Laricey, a certified functional wellness and nutrition specialist, certified functional blood work specialist, and heart math certified practitioner. Hali helps men, women, and children unravel the root causes of mystery symptoms and autoimmune struggles, especially after they've been told their labs are normal, but know something deeper is going on. After navigating her own health challenges and the frustrations of being dismissed, Hali now uses a foundational medicine approach to reveal what traditional models often miss. She brings together functional lab analysis, nutrition counseling, and nervous system support to help clients feel vibrant, empowered, and fully seen. And in today's conversation, Hali walks us through information that has likely been overlooked in routine labs that can help identify underlying causes of chronic health challenges. Even for those of us that have been told our labs are, quote, normal, this episode will provide empowering information and perhaps shed new light. Hali, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's great to be here. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I am so excited to learn from you today. I'm really glad that you're going to share your wisdom. Because I know this is a conversation that I'm going to say at the end, gosh, I wish I knew all these things 20 years ago. So I would love for listeners to get to know a little more about you by sharing your journey. How did you get into functional wellness? You know, how did you end up here? I always, and once in a blue moon, I'm wrong, but 99% of the time, my guests weren't thinking this would be their path when they were children.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, it's funny because when I was younger, I've always been a question asker. The why. I was a why person, you know?
Well, there you go. That's all you need to say. You belong in functional wellness.
I was a why person. And then, but I wasn't really into wellness, you know, at all. I was really just more into living life and asking my why questions behind the scenes. But as I got older and wiser, I started seeing a lot of patterns in life. And a lot of times, you know, hearing a comment from a doctor, I love doctors. They're great at what they do and what they're trained to do. They're trained to diagnose and treat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But sometimes when you show up without something that really needs a diagnosis, you know, you just want help and support. Sometimes you're just offered a medication or something like that.
Almost always.
Almost always, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, side effects, all those things that you know, is this my only option? And a lot of times a doctor will say, well, it's what I recommend. And so then you're kind of stuck, you know, well, do I go with this or do I do something else? So I saw this pattern and I just started asking more questions. And I found out that there were other ways to do things, ways that I totally embraced that lined up with kind of like how I feel about my life and how I want it to go and my health. So then I pursued the training and the certifications and everything behind the scenes to make that happen. Love what I do, love being in this space. And so that's kind of what landed me here.
Well, I'm sure that all of your clients feel very blessed that,
Thank
that
you.
you not only ask the questions, but took the time to get the training and really step into the space and help others. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited because I know that and it does go right directly to your love of asking questions. But I use a lot of functional labs, big panels. I just say I like to look under a lot of rocks. As somebody who, like so many people with autoimmunity, I had normal labs. So therefore, it was hard for anybody to really understand what was going on. And you take a totally different approach because you actually know more about how to read those normal labs, or what I would call basic labs, um, and say that there are hidden answers in there that are often getting overlooked.
Yeah.
So I want to learn about it because I'm excited. But but like, how do you know this secret? Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about. So let's talk about that, because these are labs that your PCP is running,
Yeah.
right? Like, so this isn't, these aren't specialty labs.
That's right. And that's, really what I do is I want to equip your listeners to have empowered conversations with their doctors, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Because we want you to ask the right questions. We don't want you to just sit there in your appointment that only lasts 15 minutes and take all the information in and leave scratching your head going, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Yeah.
So what I do is I take a look at your labs, and we're talking about stuff that's sitting in your portal for 3 to 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And today, because we're talking about autoimmunity, we're going to focus on the CBC with differential.
Okay.
I love this lab. It's full of valuable information if you know what you're looking for.
Wow.
So but all of the lab work that they do, the comprehensive metabolic panel,
Hmm.
the lipid panel, all of those are telling and give us puzzle pieces about
Yeah.
what's going on in your body overall.
Yeah.
So
And
we'll talk about the CBC with differential today.
I do think one of the shortcomings of allopathic Western medicine is, you just mentioned different parts of the panel, right? CBC with differential, the CMP, the lipid panel, whether it's what I would consider a full lipid panel or not, whether you've had a full thyroid panel or not. Unfortunately, physicians everything is compartmentalized still in Western medicine. And I think that's one of the major differences with functional. I mean, the docs that work at my clinic are medical doctors. They're both DOs. They're both, but it's what's your lens, right? They're
What's your
they're
lens?
so what are they seeing in the lipid panel that also is showing up in one of the other they're not all separate because our bodies are integrated. So sometimes it can give you a clue as to, and I really think that is one of the major challenges, is like, oh well, you have this and you have that, and they're not asking your favorite question, why? Because maybe they're
Why?
related.
Yes.
I always had, and some of it's genetic for sure, familial, high cholesterol, high LDL. And my dad had passed away at 54, so doctors were always. But my inflammation was out of control, so of course I had high cholesterol because it's a repair molecule. So, but they don't think of it that way. So
Yeah.
sorry. I'm so excited.
No,
So.
well, I mean, just to your point though, we talk about specialized. I had a client tell me one time she was so excited because her cardiologist had talked her into doing the shot that reduces your cholesterol. She never talked to me about it,
Mhm,
okay? But she did it and she was so excited. She came in and she said, this was when I had my brick and mortar.
mhm.
I'm so excited. I just met with my cardiologist. They're over the moon. My cholesterol's 105.
How were the rest of her hormones? Oh, goodness.
Exactly.
Oh,
Because see, your
yeah.
cardiologist is going to manage
That's
to
his
their
box.
set. That's right. That's his box. But
Oh,
what's the cascade that's
yeah,
being affected by these things? So, the bottom line is that 33% of people who are seeking medical care are struggling and suffering with real symptoms.
right.
And yet they hold those normal labs in their
Yeah,
hands
yeah,
and they get that stamp of approval. And I think a lot of times women fall into this category because we kind of put ourselves on the back burner a lot of
yeah,
times.
of course.
And we have a symptom or two and we say, oh, I'm going to talk to my doctor about that. Your labs come back normal. And you say, well, the doctor must be right. My symptoms don't matter.
Yeah,
We squash them down and we go on with our life.
yeah. Well, and normal and listeners, if they don't, if you're new to the podcast, I'm married to a physician. So I'm not bashing
Me neither.
doctors, and he's a Western trained, but he's been practicing functional medicine for 20 years. But normal doctors aren't, not all doctors are trained on what ideal. First, there's normal, and then there's optimal, and most of the time in your really short appointment, they're scanning your labs and they're looking for what's flagged, right? Well, what's flagged by one lab company is going to be different than what's flagged by another. So, like, and look at how unhealthy our country is. Like, who wants to be in the middle of that range? Because that's how labs values are. They have
Yeah.
nothing to do with optimal wellness. They're averages.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to get different, even like during COVID. I mean, that was like the perfect example. All of a sudden, vitamin D ranges finally bumped up into what functional medicine would consider good values. Everything used to get flagged high if somebody had a good, strong vitamin D level. But then during COVID, it became, everybody started taking vitamin D, and all of a sudden the averages changed. One lab company changed by 100 points what they considered a normal vitamin D. So it's important for people to understand that physicians are doing the best they can with the
Yeah.
training they have and the system they're working in. And most of them aren't excited about only having 10, 15 minutes with you either. But so this is why I'm all about empowerment. That's the whole reason we do the podcast. And I love that you are educating people to have those empowered conversations and ask the right questions. And I will add, sometimes the match of physician patient isn't good. Like,
Yeah.
if I tell people all the time, like, if your physician, and I'm not talking about the amount of time they're allowed to spend with you, depending on what system they're working in, but if you have a physician that's offended by questions, please find another physician.
Amen.
Yeah, really, because they're not serving you. I know. And what I know a lot of physicians. um, and most of it's the same with, like, they want engaged patients, right? They got into medicine to actually help people. And so, okay, sorry, I'm so excited because when I think of CBC with differential, I I think of, like, that's something I check if I have been sick, or when things are out of whack. I'm like, oh, was I fighting a bug when I took it? Or to me, it just seems it's run everywhere. The beautiful thing about it, this is why I'm most excited. You can go to any lab with an order and get a CBC done. You can cash pay, and they're dirt cheap because
Dirt cheap.
every lab runs a CBC with differential. So there's nothing specialty about it. Um, so tell us, how can we find some breadcrumbs
Find some
by, yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, so the CBC, there a lot of, and I just ran into this 2 times in the last 3 days. Okay, there's a CBC
Hmm.
and a CBC with differential.
Yes.
So I want to make it perfectly clear that when your listeners go to their doctor, that they request the CBC with differential, because the differential piece is what tells you the snapshot of your immune system and how it's performing. The CBC by itself is not really going to give you that breakdown.
Yeah.
All it's going to do is tell the doctor where your white blood cell count is. And like you just talked about the ranges, it's super wide.
Yeah.
White blood cell count is not super sensitive.
Yeah. And
And
CBC, complete blood count.
yes,
Yes. Okay. So I like to like start
yes,
at the very beginning. And I love you said one other thing, and then I promise I'm going to try to zip it. I,
I love it.
but
Keep
but
going.
I think this is so important for listeners to understand. Any blood test is a snapshot. So I love that you use that word. It is, that's why I just said, if my numbers look off in my CBC with differential, I'll think back to like what was going on when I got my blood drawn, because it doesn't necessarily mean there's some big ugly thing happening. It's like, oh yeah, wait, I had a cold last week or whatever. So the differential part is key, and that's the part that we're talking about specific to the for this autoimmune population.
Yes, yes. You just said something that made me think something too about the immune, um,
The
the
snapshot.
snapshot.
Yeah.
Oh, so what I do is I want to look at somebody's previous lab
Yeah.
work, like
Yep.
3 years. And if you
Yeah.
have an autoimmune condition, I want to even go back 5,
Hmm.
and everybody has that, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So then, like you said, it's not just a snapshot like, oh, I had a cold, I knew I had that. We're looking for patterns because a lot of people, me being one of them, my monocytes, and we'll talk about that, but my monocytes are always high.
Mm.
So there's something going on
Hmm.
that I need to address. But I didn't know that until I looked at 5 years worth of my labs.
Right.
If I just look at one, oh, monocytes are high. Maybe I had a little
Right. You
infection.
explain
Hey,
away like I just did, right? Like, it's whatever. I feel fine. It was a snapshot.
it was something.
Yep.
Exactly. It was a snapshot. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like we tamp down, we dismiss, we
Yes.
dismiss things.
Hmm.
So the other thing to keep in mind about the CBC with differential is that these differential pieces tell us about the immune system, but they also reveal low-lying but chronic infections.
Yes.
And these low-lying but chronic infections, if they're left untreated for a long time, they throw the door wide open to other things that we don't want creeping in, whether it's additional autoimmune conditions or whatever, our systems are burned out.
Yes. Yeah.
So when those infections are allowed to run rampant, they go to the weakest place. So if it's your thyroid, it's going to attack your thyroid. Then it looks like Hashimoto's or, your rheumatoid arthritis, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
Your body is very smart. Viruses and infections are very smart too.
Yes.
So my goal, and I know your goal, Julie, is to get to those systems that are under pressure and being broken down by these infections so that we can support them and get you feeling better as quickly as possible. That's our
Amen.
goal. Amen.
Well, and it's another, I say, it's like having a computer program running in the background, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, the body is innately intelligent and always prioritizes resources. Yeah. And
Yes.
so, so important. This afternoon, I am going to be like digging up all even my
Yes.
really old labs, looking
All
back
right. Well,
to
let me
see.
tell you what to look for then.
Yes, please.
Um, and one thing I wanted to mention too is that the reasons why I think that there are two important reasons why doctors maybe don't pay attention to the differential. It's because what we already talked about, they're focused on the WBC. Are you in range or out of range? And they don't value it because they're like big picture looking down on top of things. Things are, oh, you're okay. That's
Right.
one thing. And then the other thing is that the ranges are too wide. Um, for example, like TSH. I'm just going to throw that out there for a second. The standard range is 0.5 to 4.5.
Yeah.
Well, if Julie is always at 1, but over the years she's creeping up to 2, 3, something is going on.
Subclinical thyroid challenges,
Yes.
possible. Yeah.
But if nobody's
Yeah.
paying attention to that, it's not until you get outside the range that a doctor's going to be able to see that and be like, oh, let's get you to a specialist, or let's try this, or whatever the case may be. So
That's my
I
pet
want,
peeve though, because you picked my like pet peeve marker anyway, because because of that, your TSH can be normal for years and years and years. And if anybody ever bothered to look at, do you have thyroid, elevating, creeping up thyroid antibodies? Do you have suppressed, free T3? They don't look.
no.
They don't
Yeah,
look.
and it's like you said at the beginning too, like if you go and ask for a thyroid panel,
Yeah,
you get TSH.
right. Right.
It's not a panel.
I don't know why it popped into my head this way. It is this and it's not just thyroid, but it's the easiest and most common example of the differences in approaches. It would be like a fire crew sitting in front of a house where there's smoke coming out, but they're
Yes.
going to wait till they see flames to pull the hoses. Like that's what, to me, that is. And that's why you're going to educate us on, okay, but there are basic markers that are telling us things if we look at them through a different lens,
Different
a little bit
lens.
differently.
Through a different lens. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Okay, so do you want to jump into the 5?
Yes.
Okay, so the CBC with differential, it's laid out. So the first thing you're going to see is probably WBC, which is your
Mm-hmm.
white blood cell count.
Mm-hmm.
The lens that I'm looking through, I'm going to tighten up that
Uh-huh.
range to 5 to 8.
Okay.
Okay, 5 to 8 is my magic place.
Okay.
Now I want to add a caveat that the white blood cell count is not the most sensitive.
Right.
So even though you might be a 6,
Right.
you might be like, oh, I'm good. This is why we value the differential piece.
Gotcha.
So at the bottom, I don't know why it's laid out like this, but the bottom, you're going to go through red blood cell count and some other things. At the bottom of your report, there's going to be 5 things listed: the neutrophils, the lymphocytes, the monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. That makes up your differential. And just for all intents and purposes, that makes up 100% of your white blood cell count.
Right.
So if you add it up, it's always going to add up to be about 100%. And you want to focus on those percentages, not the absolutes. The absolutes, I mean, there's a way to convert it, but more labs usually have the percentages, but that's what you want to focus on. So let's talk about the magic numbers, the functional medicine numbers, the magical numbers that I like to call them. Okay, the neutrophils is the first one you're going to come to, and that magic happy number is 60%. 60, 60. If you're above 60, it tells me that you're carrying some type of bacterial load of some kind. And you may say, okay, well, what does that look like? What symptoms might I be having? Could look like pain,
Mm.
fatigue, urinary tract infections,
Yep.
SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or fungal overgrowth, constipation, diarrhea, IBS, all of those kinds of things. And remember, we're talking about chronic underlying. So if you go back and look at your previous labs, and you see, oh my goodness, I always run high on the neutrophils, then you know why. So 60% is our magic number. The next two I'm going to group together because they tell me about your viral load. And that is lymphocytes, happy number 30%. Monocytes, 7% or less. And if you're above, you have viral infections. Now, I have a lot of people say, oh, how do we find out what the name of it is? Which viral infection do I have? Or which bacterial infection do I have? We don't really care.
Yeah.
We want to clear them, want to get rid of them so they're not attacking you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the difference too between doctors want to get you the right antibiotic to treat,
Mm-hmm.
and we just want to clear them. So what does this look like? Well, these two markers are the number one driver for things like fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, depression, autoimmune, and inflammaging.
Mm-hmm. My
Inflammaging.
favorite word.
Yes. Low lying,
Yeah.
but chronic. And it causes us to age faster. And I don't know about you, I don't want that in my life.
No, I want to go in reverse.
Amen to that. Yes, yes, yes,
I want
yes.
the
And this
wisdom and the healthy body. Let's do it.
yes, I agree. Okay. Last, I'm going to group these two together too. We've got the eosinophils and the basophils. And we want the eosinophils to be less than 3% and the basophils to be at 1% or less. If you are above, then we're having a conversation about allergies,
Mm-hmm.
food sensitivities, um, um, parasites, things like that. And don't forget to, when we talk about the snapshot of the immune system, if you've got food sensitivities that go on for a long time, they're breaking down the other systems of your body, leading to leaky gut, celiac, all of these different things that can
Hashimoto's. Yep.
begin. Hashimoto's, right on,
Yeah.
because everything is connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's run through those 5 one more time. We've got neutrophils at 60%, lymphocytes at 30, monocytes at 7 or less, eosinophils less than 3, basophils 1% or less. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to say what it looks like with the the food sensitivities, allergies, stomach issues.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like a no-brainer, but I mean, when you can connect it, it's like, Shazam, I have an aha moment.
Uh-huh.
Chronic fatigue, muscle and joint pain,
Yeah.
things like that. So those
Yeah.
are the 5 markers that are worth the price of gold. They tell us so much about what's going on in your body.
And so it really sounds real then important. Again, we're looking at patterns and trends.
Yes,
So doesn't mean somebody should panic if they look at one CBC and they've got some elevated markers.
exactly.
But sometimes worth repeating. Like we had an appointment with a patient yesterday who her entire functional medicine panel looked gorgeous, except for her CBC with differential. And it was actually really concerning. And the conversation was, this could be a snapshot in time. This was out of the ordinary for this particular gal. So we're repeating the CBC in a few weeks to make
Brilliant.
sure that it was a snapshot.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we do too, since we're focused on functional and foundational medicine,
Yeah.
we look at the whole picture.
Yeah.
We're looking at symptoms and life stories. How
Right.
about the life lived behind all of this?
Oh, yeah.
You suffer a loss, a death, a
Yep.
move, a divorce, all of these things kind of like pummel
And they
our
tax the immune system. And that
right
was
on.
actually the surprising, this happened to be almost like you were in the meeting. you know, happen to be, a vibrant young lady who has reclaimed her health over the past decade,
Mm.
but is still in the heat of a really particularly stressful season. And so the fact that the rest of the panel was as gorgeous as it was nobody
Mhm.
expected that.
Yeah.
um, you know, and so, but so some, and again, it's cheap, it's easy to run, you can get it anywhere. And so if you know you are out of pattern, repeat
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Exactly.
love that, and I really am, because I am one of those people. I have, because I'm that old, but before there were portals, we got handed our labs. So
Me too.
I have a file of, labs even from back when I was very, very unwell, sitting in my office, taking up space in my filing cabinet, and I am going to pull those out
Mhm.
because I'm just so very curious.
Yes, intrigued. Well, and you bring up a really good point too, Julie, because one other little tip I want to share is that, the neutrophils at 60% and the lymphocytes at 30%, that's a 2-to-1 ratio.
Mhm.
Okay. Once that starts getting closer to 1-to-1, you're looking at an autoimmune flare.
Okay.
Okay. And I don't diagnose. That's not what I
Right.
do.
No.
I support, and we
Hmm.
we get you feeling better through supplementation and diet and all kinds of things. But I don't diagnose. But you probably already know. The answer's
Right.
always inside, right? We
Yeah.
we know.
Well, and that's why I love this empowerment piece, because
Yeah.
so often the pattern is we know, and we're either talked out of it by our physician because they don't have the label, the answer, the fix, because how they're looking at your labs, they look normal. And for those of you listening on audio, I'm air quotes around normal here. Um, and sometimes to the point, unfortunately, of an offer of an antidepressant, because if I hear one more story of a mother who's fatigued sharing with her physician that she's fatigued, and getting told, well, of course you're tired, you're a mother. Well, no, we know the difference. And very few people are going to go to the doctor because they're tired and
Yeah.
life is explaining the depth of the fatigue that they feel. There's a difference between fatigue and tired. And so, it is one of it just makes me really sad that when they don't have an answer, even if they're not verbalizing, it's all in your head, they're offering you a script for something that's going to change your neurotransmitter uptake. It's not
100%.
cool. I know.
It's not cool.
Yeah. So I think that every little piece of information that people can learn for themselves, and it doesn't mean that you don't even have to understand what all of these are, really, to have that start the conversation with your physician.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Ask the question. That's it.
yeah. Amazing. So because I too am a curious sort by nature, I want to know, because you mentioned that was it you said your monocytes are usually high or have been historically high. So what are you thinking? What are you doing?
Well, I'm working on the antivirals,
Okay.
really. Monocytes a lot of times, and I want to equip people so that they ask the questions. If your
Hmm.
monocytes are high, like really high, like 11, 13, something like that, you want to go ahead and ask your doctor to test for Epstein-Barr,
Yeah.
period,
That was my first thought when you said that. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
let's talk, like, educate a little bit about how viruses, so many of us, I just had this conversation literally about cancer cells, right? Like,
Oh,
we all at any given time could have cancer cells, and our body is supposed to clear them, but viruses, and Epstein-Barr is always just kind of that first one that pops into my head. Um, can have dormant periods. So can you talk about that? Because I was thinking about that as you were walking us through the differential of like, it is good to know because those things then can flare up. And it's nice to know that, okay, that could be what's going on and I need to focus a little more on that.
That's the whole pattern thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like once we get it, the snapshot that we
Hmm.
talked about earlier, maybe the monocytes are fine, but you're exhausted. You have all of these other symptoms. It's hard for you to recover after you're sick. You have these symptoms, and I may suspect, like,
Hmm.
even if that number isn't high and I've listened to your story,
Right.
I'm going to treat you for viral load,
Yeah.
you know? Even even if there's nothing that shows up because it is a snapshot. More often than not, I've got 3 years worth
Yeah.
of labs. And that's usually 3 reports, but sometimes it's six.
Yeah.
If you're older and you're going twice a year or something like that, or you have
Hmm.
something else going on, the more information, the merrier. It's like Christmas for me when somebody says, "Oh, I have tons of labs." It's
Yeah.
like, oh, good, there's tons of pieces to your puzzle that are going to help us be able to work together and get you some relief.
Yeah.
And when you talked about dormancy, there's a lot of stuff that gets so comfortable in our body that it creates a biofilm around it
Yep.
and it sits there and it thrives,
Hmm.
doesn't show up on any lab work.
Right.
So that's another piece to the puzzle, but we have to have the lab work to match up with how you're feeling in your life.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to know everything going in, but for me, I start with the labs because the numbers don't lie,
Right.
you know?
You just had have to know how to use them.
That's
Well, and
right.
I literally have never had, I mean, we do, we track and look for changes and trends and things, but in the traditional system, I've never had anybody sit down and look at. I was laughing in my head when you were saying, so sometimes it's labs are twice a year. I'm thinking, wow, when I was like a full-on rheumatology patient, I was getting a panel every 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I was on so many toxic medications, they were just trying to make sure they weren't killing me in the meantime.
Yeah.
So, they were I mean, at least, yay, they were following me closely. So,
Mhm.
like, I'm not kidding. In that file, I should have lots and lots of
We got
labs to look
lots,
at.
gobs of stuff. It's like going to be Christmas, Julie. It's going to be Christmas.
And I always say to people too, like the most important thing is how you feel, right? I want to see, I want to go back because I'm curious and I'm a nerd and this is what I love. And so I learned a new
Guilty.
trick. I always practice on myself first. So I want to, that's why well, I don't want to say I don't care what your labs look like if you feel well. Um, but even as somebody's on their healing journey, sometimes markers lag, right? Like I want to know that tell me your story. I want to know that you're feeling improvements. And then the labs are going to improve too. It's not
Cut and
always a
dry.
really quick, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's true. I mean, labs labs are only one part of it. They're,
yeah.
they're important.
They're a guide,
It's the symptoms that take us to the doctor.
right?
If I
Yeah,
don't have any symptoms, I'm going for my physical and I'm good and everything's fine,
yeah,
but it's the symptoms. So if we can reduce those symptoms and get you feeling better,
yeah.
lab work almost always follows suit.
Well, and that's why I love the your approach of going back. I use the term, subclinical thyroid, right? It's there. So stuff is there in your labs before you have symptoms. It's
Yes,
there
it's there.
if you know what to look for. And that's the difference is
Yeah.
we don't want symptoms. Like we don't want to wait.
Uh-uh.
I don't want them to wait till they see flames. God forbid there's a fire at my house, right? Like if you see a smolder, let's do it. So I love that idea. And I'm so grateful. I'm excited. You've given me amazing new tool.
I've given you something to do today.
You have. I know. I had nothing to do.
Exactly right. Sure.
Yeah, but I love this stuff. I mean,
Me
it's,
too.
and so you took what I kind of have been a little bit dismissive of because nobody ever showed me how to make it truly useful
Yeah.
before. And now I'm even, there's that little piece of me that's even more frustrated that how many CBCs with differentials I've had and nobody ever looked for a pattern back again. I'm going back a decade.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would also be interested to know if you have some CBCs in there with no differential,
I probably do.
right?
We don't ever run, we only do CBC with differential
Yeah.
at our
Most
clinic.
functional do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But we also never just run a TSH. So
Understood. Yes, ma'am. I got you.
but you would hope if a rheumatologist was the one that was ordering the bulk of my labs that they would include the immune piece. You would hope. Maybe.
This is
We'll
the
see.
reason why we're educating,
Yeah.
right? We're empowering to have that conversation. Even if it's a specialist, you want
Yeah.
to ask the question, okay, I understand you're going to do the CBC. We're going to include the differential, right? I mean, you don't want to be
Absolutely.
confrontational, but it's my
Yeah.
blood.
Or could
It's,
we? Can we? I would like to,
yes.
right? Me statements. The beautiful thing about the differential is again, it is in the normal labs. Like so it's
Gee,
not even the first time I had asked my primary care to run a complete thyroid panel and I brought her the markers I wanted. And she was fantastic and very open and was like, I will absolutely order all of this for you. I'm not going to know what to do with the results. She was honest, at least, but this is not, it's not, you're not asking for a toxin panel. You're not asking for a food sensitivity panel or things that are not insurance based, not hospital based, like any lab you go to can add the differential when you're getting a CBC done. So
yes.
talk to your doctor about it. Um,
Yes.
and I don't know, I haven't honestly like priced the difference of CBC with or without the differential, but I know with the differential is the like least expensive thing you can get run anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, I wonder if there's even a difference in price. Do you know
there
what I
probably
mean?
isn't.
Like, there's
Sometimes,
probably isn't.
yeah, sometimes maybe without is more. You never know.
Maybe. True. True.
It could be.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. So this has been such amazing gold, and you may have already said it, but I know you have a broad lens when looking at labs, but you also have a broad lens when it comes to functional health and wellness.
Mhm.
So here is your opportunity. What is one step that listeners can take starting today to improve their health? And it could be something you've already said, or it could be totally different.
Well, I would like to say something about what I've already said, and then I would like to add something. So I think my number one takeaway is to be curious.
Yes.
Be curious. Don't be fearful. Too many people attach fear to going to their doctor because they're yielded to that 15 minutes and they're just going to take whatever the doctor says and they're going to walk away and whatever and then
Mm-hmm.
be afraid of what's going to show up in their labs.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Be curious. Replace that fear with
Love
curiosity.
it.
And I hope that our conversation today has equipped your listeners to be able to say, yes, I'm empowered. I have these tools right now. I'm going to go in my portal. I'm going to look. I'm going to see what's there. And the next time I talk to my doctor, I'm going to have a great
I
conversation.
have some questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love it.
And then the other thing I think I would say to feel better is the vitamin D, which we already talked about, but all vitamin D is not created equal. So I've had lots of conversations with people that have said, yeah, my doctor told me to pick up a big thing at Costco and take one a day, and don't do that. You want a formula that is synergistic and handles a lot of things. It has a lot of cofactors in there that's going to support your body. Because vitamin D is a hormone, it goes everywhere in your
Mhm.
body. It needs to feed so many things. You got to make sure that you're healthy in that area. So make sure you get a vitamin D3 with K2
Mhm.
and take at least 5,000 a day. That functional range is 80 to 100.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if your vitamin D number is there somewhere on your lab report, you want it to be 80 to 100.
Well, and they especially, I can't tell you, I literally still don't know that I've ever had somebody come through my door with active autoimmune symptoms that wasn't supplementing with D, that didn't have their D levels in the toilet, like teens, 20s. It
Mhm.
hurts me to look at when I see it. And even the quality vitamin D is really relatively inexpensive. And it is when I was on 10 prescriptions, the one thing that I actually felt was when they gave me vitamin D. They told me to add in vitamin D, and I was like, holy
Yes.
cow, energy's a little bit better. I will add, you said it, but I'm going to implore people because we have gone full swing. It used to be PCPs used to be afraid of vitamin D, and now everybody understands it's really important. Test, 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 test. It is fat soluble. You don't want to be supplementing long term and
Yeah.
not test, and just know where you are.
Yeah.
And for some people, it can take a long time to get those levels elevated.
Yeah.
But some people, I have on the rare occasion seen like short-term supplementation really just getting people into that functional 80 to 100 range. And so, yes,
Yes.
especially as seasons are changing and
Days are getting shorter.
this idea of, yes, ideally our body is able to make vitamin D from sun exposure. Just because you may spend a lot of time outside, and even if you don't wear sunblock, you still might have low vitamin D. So
Yep.
it is absolutely worth testing. That
Yes.
would be another ask. If that's
That
not in your panels that you are going to dig up and go through, ask for it.
empowerment. Yes.
Yeah.
Ask for it because it's not on the list. They don't normally run it. And even
Yeah.
if you ask, sometimes they don't. So just be sure you get it.
Yes. Amen. Hallie, where is the best place for people that listen like I do on the go and they may not click the show notes to find you?
Well, the easiest place to find me is I have that list that you just talked about. I
Mm-hmm.
have a Dream Labs list on my website. It's halilaricy.com, HALILARICEY.com /labs. And you can go there, you can download it, you can print it out, you can take it to your doctor, you can have it by you while you're looking through your old labs so you know what is missing and what's good, all of that. So that's the first place. The second place is if you're curious about your labs, if what we've talked about today has made you say, I wonder what else is hiding in there or whatever, feel free to schedule with me. So it's halilaricy.com /schedule. And you can get on my calendar. I would love to see you there. I would love to know that you heard Julie's and my conversation and that it was enlightening for you. And, we can talk about it. I like to talk about it.
I get that. It's
I
great.
love it.
Well, and because here's the thing, the curiosity leads to more questions, right?
That's right.
And so to have somebody, and I do step one, absolutely, talk to your physician. But I know a lot of people who, you know, we require, we're not a primary care office, and so our patients are supposed to have primary care doctors, and more often than not, when they bring primary care type questions to us. And I say, this is a good time to reach out to your primary care. What I hear is, I don't like them, so no. Or, oh, I only, I go for the insurance requirement, but it's almost like I don't identify as their patient, kind of, like,
Yes.
so I say, the ideal situation is for all of us to be able to, and it's not always possible financially or, in network, maybe geographically, whatever, to have a physician partner. Healthcare is supposed to be a partnership. And so I say, always, yes, that's the ideal. But highly, highly recommend that for anybody who wants that guidance and the detective work, which you and I love so much, to reach out to you and book a call and get the walkthrough, because as you answer, uncover or answer certain questions, then other questions arise because of that. And so to have somebody who is an expert like you are is really a remarkable thing, and you work remotely, and so
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I would say,
Yeah,
guys,
it should be team.
yeah,
It should be teamwork, just like you said.
yeah,
You want to have a whole group of people that are supporting your healthcare journey. That's what
absolutely,
we all want.
yeah, and you are the most significant player in that team.
Amen.
Yeah, so
Amen. That's right.
Hali, thank you so much for all of the gold you have given us today. It has been such an absolute pleasure. And really, listeners, listen to this 2-3 times
Yes.
and then dig up those labs.
Yes. Thank you, Julie.
For everyone listening, remember you can get those transcripts and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.